Welcome back to Momentous Struggle, a Shatterpoint podcast. Wait. Did I sound like Todd? I think I gotta get lower here. All right. Welcome back to Momentous Struggle, a Shatterpoint podcast. Nah, I can't do it. That man has the voice for radio and probably the face too. It's all right. In case you haven't figured this out, dear listeners, Todd is not here. Apparently, I passed my bus test, and now he's letting me drive the whole thing. And I have with me, let's see, the mighty Omnus. We'll go with that. The mighty Omnus. Are you ready? Are you excited?
I am very ready. It is first thing in the morning, so I'm a little drowsy. I'm trying to get into the zone of being the Aubrey for the show. But yeah, this is the first time someone's called me mighty Omnus. I feel like, did I just become like a teenager sports team that John Cusack is trying to get into shape?
Yeah, I think that's about right. I'm feeling a little duckish. Yeah.
What sport would the mighty Omnuses be? I feel like it would be
Ooh.
something like weird, like table tennis or something. Like it would be
Yeah,
something.
I'm water polo. I'm thinking
Water
water
polo.
polo. Yeah, I mean the
Or
duck theme. Come on.
what if lightsaber duels were becoming a real sport? And so this was the beginning of this nerdy team that wants to compete in this lightsaber sword fighting era. Like the first time that lightsaber duels are going to be at the Olympics or something.
Oh, I'm ready for this. Oh, that would be so exciting. I I don't know what that would look like. Like, I mean, nobody's gonna die, but I mean that's the Disney era of lightsabers, so that's all right.
There's a whole group in Seattle that like practices regularly and does performances at games and like all sorts of stuff. So like there's a lot of people who take it very seriously. So I would not be surprised if that was a real thing that happens in like 5 years.
Oh, okay. All right. All of you Olympic officials who listen to Momentous Struggle, you can have this idea for free, okay? Just run
Bob,
with
we're
it.
talking to you. Okay?
All right. So, for those of you who maybe you stumbled into the Shatterpoint podcast world accidentally, and somehow this is the first episode that you're listening to, go go back a few maybe and check out the others. But it's all right. I got you. So, normally it would be Todd and I on here talking about Shatterpoint, talking about lore, having a good time. But I wanted to bring on a guest, and come on, Omnus, you practically begged me. That at least that's how I remember it.
No, I did 100%. You don't realize how much complaining I did to Todd when we recorded the other episode that I guested on. And I was like, I fucking signed up for an episode that was you, me, and Aubrey. What do you mean that I don't get the Momentous Panda? Like that's not even really an episode without the Momentous Panda.
That that's fair. That's fair. So Omnus is one of the co-hosts on the Rogue Support Shatterpoint podcast, and so if you have not checked them out, frankly, I feel like I should say no. Okay, listen to the rest of this episode. But if you have to, you can pause this too. Go find them and come back because, like I promise you, this is we're always talking about like, oh, are you a more casual Shatterpoint player? Are you a more competitive player? And a Rogue Support, I feel, does the best job of catering to both audiences because I'll be honest, Todd and I are not trying to be competitive. I'm not trying to be the next champ. That we'll let Matt B and others have that title. We're just here to have fun. And then of course you got the other podcasts like Hello There, Sci-Fi, and like they're always like on the cutting edge of analysis in the environment. But I mean, what do you think, Omnis? Do you think I feel like you guys do a good job of, just being casual, but also, getting in there and winning when you need to?
Yeah, I think that's the goal. Like, and so if a listener was checking this out and they're like, "Oh, I want to hear this other show too," I would check out our episode called "When It Terrains, It Pours." I thought that really highlights,
Yeah.
because we're talking about all the different interesting things you can do with terrain. You really see like all the different personalities on the show, and we also approach it from like setting up terrain for your random game with a buddy, or all the way to setting it up for something competitive. And we kind of discuss the ins and outs and try to approach it from all the perspectives. And so even though we have some very competitive minded and like trying to build good lists on the show, like for me personally, I don't want to necessarily speak for all of the other guys, but I've also realized that sometimes my competitive side has driven me to some behavior that at very least borderlines on toxic. And I'm really trying to keep that in check. And also for my, my personal mental health, where I'm just like able to just kind of enjoy the game and not let my ego stop me from having fun, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because again, I used to be a fairly competitive Magic player. Never a great Magic player, but I was trying to be competitive. And I've told the story a few times, but like there was a night where I literally got into a fight with somebody because I was mad that I won. I was mad that I won the tournament because the last round I just got lucky. Nothing I did actually mattered, but my opponent just like made I don't even remember what if he made a mistake or if like the cards didn't fall his way, but I won. I won the tournament and I was mad about it. That's not good.
I have this weird relationship with card games because obviously I started with Magic as well. I grew up on Magic. I came back to Magic. That's kind of how I fell into miniatures accidentally. And I also took a break and I played the version 2 of the Game of Thrones card game for a bit as well. But it was really funny when I was leaving card games and getting into miniatures. People were like, "Isn't it just random? Like you're affected by dice." And I will say, like my entire miniatures game experience, I have felt like I won or I lost less games due to dice than I ever lost in a card game due to random draws. Like, you would play games and literally every time you were out playing games, you'd be like, well, yeah, that one I just lost on the draw. There was nothing I could do there. And how rare that is for me playing miniatures games. It's really hard to switch back because I go to a tournament and I'm like, I thought I was playing great. And this guy just top decked the perfect card 2 turns in a row. Like, what the fuck do I do about that? Like, should I have planned assuming that he could top deck the last 2 versions of that card back to back? Like, it's stuff like so it's just interesting where like card game players are like, oh, these miniatures games where you roll dice, it's just random. Like there's no strategy, or a strategy plays, kind of second fiddle or something like that. Um, but yeah, it's a weird relationship between the card game and the miniatures games.
Oh yeah, no, you just reminded me, and I'm not gonna dive into Magic too much, but in Magic, there's cards that basically reset the battlefield, destroys everything that's on there, just resets the board. And I remember playing against a very good friend of mine who is a better player than me. Like his analytical math brain, I just can't compete with. But there was a tournament we got paired like round one, and I proceeded to rip turn 4, turn 5, and like turn 7 3 copies of a card that destroys everything on the field, and he was playing the opposite strategy of put stuff on the field, attack, 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 right? Like after the third one, he was just like, "What?" The game was done. He was like, "Let's just play the next one." Like I'm not like what you can't strategize against that. Like that's just lucky.
Yeah, it's with a card game, I feel like you are just trying to go, how can I get the greatest win percentage over 100 or 200 or 1,000 games or something like that. And we're something like Shatterpoint, we're going, well, not every activation is going to go perfectly, but I'm trying to build and strategize assuming that a larger portion of my activations will end up being successful. And so it's a very different mindset. And so you can one game means a lot more in your overall experience.
Oh yeah, I still can't get over that we are doing this for like 2 hours where I could play like 6 games of Magic or maybe even more in that same time period. And like I don't know who's gonna win sometimes until like the very last turn where just something turns the corner or doesn't, and now it's over. And I'm like, I've been doing this for 2 hours and I thought I was doing well, but then this happened. Or alternatively, I wasn't doing well for 2 hours and then something horrible happened, and you're like, oh, I win. Yeah, yay.
Yeah, sometimes it's why I talk to people about like staying in. And one of the last Rogue Support episodes, we were kind of talking about like how you know mentally stay in the game. And you know, for me, there's been so many games over the course. I've been a miniatures gamer now for something like 20 years. There's been so many games where I thought I lost, where I was sure I had lost the game, and I find a way to dig myself out of it. And sometimes you don't see that right away, and you've got to be willing to like stay in the moment, play your best plays, and then maybe 5-10 minutes down the road, suddenly you're like, oh shit, I've got an opening. Oh, that didn't go right for him, or he mispositioned, he forgot about this other ability, and now suddenly I'm back in this thing. And it happens. Like it can happen almost every game. And it also it's like I'm winning, but I got to stay invested, you know? Right? Like I know that I could like drop this anytime. Um so yeah, but that's fun, right? Like I did not personally enjoy the Magic games that much. I'm like, haha, combo out, game over, you know. Uh or it's like, oh, did you have the counter at the right time? You didn't, haha, you know. But in this, it's just like you you really don't know who's gonna win a lot of the time. Like when you have two people on like kind of a similar experience level, and man, that's so much fun when you're just like, oh man, I gotta not fuck up this activation, you know, just keep going.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because and this is something that all right. So I had a dad. Oh boy, we're getting into the therapy sessions now. I had a dad who was like A's were not good enough. You needed to be like above A, which doesn't
S tier.
exist. Yeah. Yes. Sure. We could we could start ranking things if you want,
Yeah.
but like I would get like a 94 or 95, 96 on a test or whatever. He'd be like, "Well, why'd you miss two questions?" I'm like, "I okay, dad." But the where I'm getting at with this is that like the fail rate, I would have to explain to him that like walking on into a Magic tournament, the best players in the world lose 1 out of 3 games. Like one out of three, like the
Yeah.
65% was considered the best in the world, and that means like okay, yeah, 1 in 3 games. Like I've played against Magic pros and beaten them. Does that mean I was a better player? No, no, no. But card games and random chance and statistics. Some people love it. There's a reason I'm playing Shatterpoint now.
Yeah. Yeah. Nope. Totally get it.
Yeah. So, okay, well I think this kind of leads to so like,
Segway.
yeah, you were on here once before, but I mean, just talking about your background with games cuz I wasn't there for this. So tell me like
Unfairly
I
disconnected from
know
it.
I know, terrible. So tell me, Omnis, how did we go from Magic to tabletop? What was the transition? Like you said, you've been doing this for 20 years now. I mean, I don't want to think about how long I've been playing Magic. I guess 13, 14, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually been quite 20 years, but the moment was because I remember at different points where people had shown me miniatures, and I remember at one point hanging out with some friends, and they actually wanted to go into a Games Workshop store while they're going to play a game, and I think some of us were playing Magic. Um, but I always looked at that stuff and I was like, there's no way that I can paint this to any reasonable quality. You know, I didn't believe that that was even something that was possible for me to do. But what happened is I would go to a game store after work in my 20s, and usually would just like hang out, play Magic, trade, and the kind of like tournament organizer kind of this was kind of before game stores had like a TO sort of position normally. And but he was essentially a TO for the store. He was running events kind of constantly. And at that day, he was running a D&D minis tournament. And the tournament was he as the TO played the colossal red dragon, and they brought a 200-point army, and nobody could beat the red dragon at the time, but it was who got the red dragon closest to death would win the event. And so, you know, my young nerd saw this colossal red dragon, and it just like made me think of the young me playing Dungeons and Dragons. And so I just got enthralled and I watched. And then that kind of made me like, okay, well, I'll play some D&D minis, but honestly, the rules for that were janky. Like they were so hard to follow. It was like Well, when you move diagonally, the first move is 1, and then the second diagonal move is 2. But if you throw a lightning bolt, the first diagonal is 2, the second diagonal, and it was just like crap like that. Just made it. It was trying to be too much like D&D, and it was too difficult to
Mm.
follow. And I never quite got into the like, I'm going to make a decision. I don't really understand the full consequences of it. We're just going to see what happens. And I was okay. Like I would build a good list and like play and have fun with it. But then so Star Wars minis was kind of around the same time, and then I started getting into that, and that I really got into, and that was a little bit more simplified, and so there wasn't as much of the chaos because it didn't need to be like D&D. It could was almost like a precursor to Star Wars Saga if people remember that role-playing game. It was right around it came out a little bit before D&D 4th edition, the one that divided the whole community, but was playing Saga at that time. But it was fun. It was a little more chill, and it provided a kind of a gateway for me where I didn't have to paint anything. But eventually, I did want to like tweak some stuff a little bit, right? I remember there was a Darth Maul on a speeder bike, and I always thought it would be cooler if instead of having both of his hands on the handlebars, that he was holding a lightsaber in the other hand. And so I remember chopping off a lightsaber from some random Sith character, and like gluing it on, and then like finding a different piece that could look like the handlebar that I had to cut off for the speeder bike. And I was always like really excited about that. But I did have to get a paintbrush and a little bit of paint. But that kind of like helped bridge the gap for me. And and so then when War Machine was being introduced to me, then I was like, okay, maybe I can assemble some stuff and paint some stuff. And so it was a gradual transition. But basically my road was Wizards of the Coast Star Wars minis. I played a lot. We were probably the largest and most active Star Wars minis community in the world. We were literally doing a tournament every Wednesday and every Saturday, every single week. And we would
Whoa! All right.
the Wednesday events were always more than 8 people, and we generally had more than like 16 for the Saturdays, and it was a big community. We had the largest regionals when they finally did that. And then moved on to War Machine, very competitive. That's when I got into podcasting, then did Marvel Crisis Protocol, and now doing Shatterpoint. And that has led me to this delightful moment of being able to hang out with the Momentous Panda.
Yay! Yay! Those of you who may have missed the episode about the panda, you got to go back. Sorry, you got to go
We're
back.
not going
It's
to tell you
very
which
important.
episode it
It's very
was. You have
important.
to listen to all of them.
Nope.
I don't make
Well,
the rules.
because ADHD baby. Do you think I remember which episode that was? It was pretty recent too. Whatever. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, you'll
If
get
not,
there.
go in the Discord and Todd will tell you because Todd will remember these things. I'm not the rememberer. I'm the one with the lukewarm takes and lukewarm beverages. I come on. Yeah. So I mean, I have told my story on here before. So I mean, just as a refresher, everybody, Magic player who got tired of having to spend money every 5 minutes because Wizards of the Coast is trying to squeeze every last cent out of their darling, and I needed a new outlet. I needed something else. I actually tried other card games first, but then Todd was like, hey, I know you like Star Wars, and this new game just came out, and I've been trying to get you to play tabletop with us for years, because a lot of my Magic friends, they do both. They play Magic and they play a lot of 40K. And I think one of our friends plays Armada and X-wing. I know he has like every ship in Armada because one of these days I'm gonna go over, let him show me those. But I was always like, no, I can only do one hobby at a time. I can't. I don't have the focus, right?
It's too difficult.
Ugh. Yeah.
I wish I could
So
have been there when you finally opened up a Star Wars minis box or a Shatterpoint box, and you're like, Todd, where are the models? There's just this like pile of plastic in here. Where are my toys? That would have that would have been one of those like TikTok videos or something like the kids do. That just would have been perfect. It would have gone viral for sure.
right, if I had known, like I wish I could have like just set this up and made this a thing, but I had no conception because like I have a wall of board games off screen over here, and so like I've seen minis before. They usually come in like in a plastic holder, and you pop them out, and then you play with them. Like I've done that enough times with board games. I was expecting that.
And that is not exactly what you got. But you're with us now. How much have you painted
No.
so far?
Ooh, oh man. Okay. All right. So I am terrible. So when I first started, I am very much a Pokemon player too. I
Gotta
still teach the
catch 'em
kids.
all.
Yeah. So I tried to buy everything that came out. And at first I really did it. The only like terrain set I didn't have was the take cover, and that's because I'm a crazy person who bought a 3D printer instead.
Nope, take cover
As
is a
one does.
skippable box. Sorry, AMG.
Yeah, sorry. But so I have almost everything, and then finally when we had that big massive dump of all of like all the Empire stuff and all of the like rebels, and like when we got that big dump of a few has it been 6 months? Oh, it's probably been 6 months now.
For the record, I didn't need to know what all you own. I was just curious what you had painted.
Well, no, my point is you have to understand I
I know.
bought way
I'm trying to
more
be Todd here for a second and be
than
like, you're not answering the question. You're ooh shiny. Let's talk about
well
my
the
purchasing problem.
the point is that, like, for example, I could see them right now because I pulled them out to maybe try and mess with some colors, and like the Padme box, almost everything is assembled because I know there's a conversation going on. I always assemble the boxes because I want to play. Like that's
Yeah.
me. I want to play. Painting, however, like the Padme box, still not painted. Bad Batch, I was all excited about Bad Batch, still not painted. Let's see. I stripped some of my minis because like my very early ones were kind of tough. I did not follow the rule of, well, I have the very first mini because I tested out on a board game, right?
Okay.
Like so like I wasn't gonna mess with the expensive minis at first. I was like, all right, where's this like Bloodborne board game, like giant one? I'm gonna test you, like see if I can paint. So I have that, but it's also like twice the size of Shatterpoint stuff. So I would say probably like it's probably close to 50%,
Oh, that's
which is not
that's
bad.
not bad at all. It's probably better than Dizzard.
Well, I mean, but does Dizzard actually try to get things done, or does he just kind of go?
He does a fair amount of painting. I wouldn't be surprised if he spent more time than you painting.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I was surprised. We would talk about stuff I'm like you don't have that much painted, but he does. He knocks out a fair amount of his models. I'm not trying to be too hard on Dizzard. I was just yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, my thing was is like you have to talk about the journey though, because I used like cheap acrylic paint, and then Todd was like, "Okay, Aubrey, we gotta sit you down and teach you the ways. Like, here's what real miniature paint looks like on the model." And I was like, "Oh,
This is the
okay."
way.
Yeah. No, he was right. I'm happy you guys were talking about how like just have cheap brushes though, because I feel like I bought a few expensive brushes and I feel like I destroyed them immediately. Like it was not good.
I will say I used very cheap brushes for quite a long time. I am now very much addicted to the red-handled Monument Hobbies brushes. They're a little bit more um but they kind of bridge that gap into like, oh my god, these are they're kind of they're not too expensive depending on your concept of expensive brushes, but I feel like I grew as a painter really significantly when I finally upgraded to them because you get surprised at what you can actually do with a larger brush that has a really nice tip, and you're not trying to use these little teeny tiny brushes for everything that tend to dry out and tend to get ruined faster. Um, so it is something where like when you're ready, try a Monuments Hobbies brush. Um, they're pretty fantastic. Or it could be, we got Christmas around the corner. It could be a great Christmas present request where you like get this little link, get me these brushes. Not too expensive. I always struggle with the like, hey, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I try to buy myself the shit that I
Right.
want. People are like, I know you
Uh,
play this game, but I assume you have everything. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with me. And I'm gonna have to remember that because not a sponsor of the podcast, but Monument Hobbies paint is basically my go-to first. Like
Oh,
I have some other stuff, but it's more for like if I need like a very specific color for the idea that I'm looking for. Otherwise, I just grab their paint. Like it's so nice.
it's yeah, it being a little bit thinner than like I started off with a lot of privateer press paint, and that is a lot easier to go on too thick. Where the Monument Hobbies stuff, um, yeah, just great. I use them from almost everything now. But
Oh
my
yeah,
my
you
bro who got me through COVID, playing MCP with me, who's a painter, Jordan, he moved to your area, and I understand that you and Todd met Jordan at the Gamers Guild Gamers Guild GT.
yes. I may have forgotten that his name was Jordan, but yes. The
That's
guy
okay.
who moved here. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm bad with names and faces and dates and
memories. Got
but
it. Yeah, no, we're good.
it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, no, talking about too thick of bait. Yeah, you should see some of I'll have to bring along to LVO some of my early paints with like the cheap like Walmart stuff because I was also like I'm like, "Oh, this seems fine." And it's like this giant like glob that I've like moved around the mini. Yeah, it's funny. I I almost wish I had kept like even like I was trying to make my core set look better, which is why I stripped some of the characters and like wanted to start over. But it was amazing to see because I believe I started with like Anakin in the 501st and then like went to Ahsoka and then I did the Separatists and you could just see me getting better in in real time like as you look at each model. And so it was just it's a lot of fun because like I like the fact that this isn't just a game but it's also a creative outlet because I was also looking for something like that because I used to do a lot of writing when I was younger but I've just been too busy and frankly a lot of my ideas have really been done like
Are you
I
going to
was
share
just
the blog to your fan fiction? Is that public still?
no. Oh no. Oh no. That's been scoured off the internet because let's see. What did I write? I used to write Zelda fan fiction, like Legend of Zelda. Like
Nice.
that's how nerdy I was all the way back in Fernley, Nevada. I had a following of I'm sure dozens of people. Just dozens.
What did you
Maybe a
think
few
about
dozen.
the when the woke media turned Zelda into a female?
I'm going to think about that for a second. I'm going to let you think about that for a second. Um, hmm, hmm. Remind me, who is it? The legend of who are we rescuing most of the time? Sometimes she rescues us. Oh, right. Zelda, the princess. That was another thing I had to explain to my dad. He was like, "Oh, so you're Zelda, right? Because it's the Legend of Zelda." I'm like, "No, Dad, no, that's not Zelda."
Also,
Oh
Zelda
man,
kind of sounds like a place anyway, right? Like if you didn't play the game, you would probably assume Legend of Zelda was like the Legend of Narnia, or something
hmm
like that. The Legend of Alderaan.
Aw, poor Alderaan. It's
They got what they
okay.
deserved.
Oh, for harboring terrorists? Okay. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Just saying. Just saying.
I'm not so concerned with the terrorists. I was more concerned with the cultists in hiding.
Oh, the cultists. Oh, okay. All right. All right.
While I'm
You know,
admiring his Jedi Knight hat on video.
yeah, I'm like, there's a picture of well, I mean, is he a Jedi or is he a Mandalorian? I got Baby Yoda. I don't care that his name's Grogu. He's Baby Yoda. I'm sorry, listeners. You can just deal with it.
His name is
I got a
Grogu
picture.
Din, actually. So
Oh, Grogu. That's fair. The foundling. The foundling. All right. All right.
respect.
Yes. Oh, okay. Okay. You can let me go on and on about this forever, but what we wanted to talk about, because everyone, we're 30 minutes in and they're like, what is the topic? Spoilers, there is no topic.
Spoiler alert, I do not plan on trying to wrangle Aubrey. Like I
Yeah, that's
I did
Todd's
my
job.
part.
Todd's not here.
I said you didn't have to explain all of what you owned. That's about all the organization you're going to get from Wild Omnus on this thing. I signed
Uh-huh.
up for the train. I got on the train. I understand I have no control over where the fuck the train goes.
Oh, I'm glad you understand this too, because do you think
Yeah.
I built the rails?
No.
I didn't build these rails. We're all follow along. I'm not even in the conductor up with the conductor. I'm just in the back hanging out too. Like there might be a conductor. I don't know.
What's the train board game? The Spiel
Oh,
winner. Ticket to
right.
Ride.
Ticket to Ride. I'm like
Someone
ride
else played
something.
Ticket to Ride. It was probably Todd and Dizzard. They played Ticket to Ride. Now we're just on the railroads that they built. This is
Mm-hmm.
y'all created this. We're just here to see where it goes.
Yeah. So Omnus, famously, you might want to tell the listeners, might have done fairly well in an event recently. Like, do you recall? Do you recall this
I
event?
mean, it's been a long time already. No. Yeah, I was able to go down to the SoCal Open, which was another frontline gaming con like LVO, Lone Star Open. Um, and I've been wanting to go for a while, and this one worked out time wise. I just wanted to meet more people from the MCP community, and I had a lot of discussions about what I've been playing for Republic and things like that. And I was like, I just let me put it against a test outside of my meta and kind of see how that stuff goes. And it was really good. We only ended up doing like a straight 4 rounds, no top cut. I ended up going undefeated, had some really fantastic games. But I got to walk away with this cool fucking uh, surfing Vader trophy. So
Yeah.
I mean, cannot be mad about that. But it was a fantastic time. I loved getting to actually meet Sarah Cruel, and we played in the finals, which was like one of the most chill, friendly games because we were both like, man, if you're the person I lose to, I'm totally cool with this. Got to meet Matt Boucher, who's kind of your guys' area, right?
Yes. Yep.
And then Brady, who's from San Diego, and the purist Christopher, also super sweet dude. Played against Ghost Bear, as I believe his handle.
Okay.
Right, sounds right. This Ghost something. I make because there's an MCP guy who's Ghost Deer. And
Oh
so
no.
I sometimes there was a point where I thought they might be the same person. I was like, no, they are not the same person. I'm pretty sure it was Ghost Bear. But yeah, it was just really fun. I got to see Christian again, who's actually from Denmark, lives in the U.S. We then played in Denmark during WTC last year, and then he and I played round one of Shatterpoint at the SoCal Open. So yeah, it was just a really great event. Lance was the main TO. I'm forgetting the other judge's name. They were both super cool. At one point, they just started handing out ice cold beer. I was like, "You guys are fucking heroes." Um, but
There
yeah,
we go.
it was really fun. I was just like happy to get out and do some Shatterpoint. But yeah, I was happy. Played my Rebels combo twice. Played my Republic combo twice. I was just happy that it kind of did what I wanted it to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, that wow. They're just handing out beer. Okay, so Todd and I are gonna have to we're gonna have to figure this out, negotiate something. We need them to move SoCal by like a week or two so that he and I can make it down. We gotta
I
make
was
this
talking with
happen.
Tyson, and it does sound like they might. I this is not locked in. This is not straight from
Mm,
FLG. It sounds like they want to push it a couple of weeks, so it might end up being like the end of September next year, or it might be like the very beginning of November next year. I can't remember the reason why he was saying that they wanted to. There was something um, that was conflicting a little bit. But yeah, it is entirely possible. It might be a couple weeks different next year.
All right, there we go. Well, I mean, come on, Omnis. It's obviously because they want Todd and I to be there. You know, with our highly competitive tuned lists, we definitely remember all of the rules. Okay, maybe Todd does. I was playing in my league game and I was forgetting that cover doesn't work against melee attacks just this like few days ago because you never have cover without a hunker token, right? But I was playing with Hera, and that's like this is my I have been sticking
I did the
to
same thing. I was trying to
Hera.
play Chewie, and I'm so
Right?
used to never having cover that I was like, oh, he just gives out cover all the time. And I rolled it on some melee attacks until we realized that no, even that cover is only versus range attacks. Yep, no, I
Well,
did the same thing with my first game with Chewie.
well, it doesn't help because I played like exclusively General Obi-Wan Kenobi for like the first 6 months that I played the game. And so like that has
I knew
skewed.
you were that guy.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm always trying to force the stuff I like. I don't care what the meta is. I was the blue-white control player in Magic, no matter how difficult the the meta was for that strategy to actually do what it's gonna do. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna force it anyway. It'll be fine. It'll work. No, no, it doesn't always work. And yeah, Republic. I love you, Republic. But if it weren't for the second coming of Bad Batch, we would not be discussing Republic very much. I don't think, at least on the competitive tables. I'm sorry.
I did play a casual game with Matt on day 2, and I was playing Annie and Lumi, and I was playing all Republic. The only thing Bad Batch I had in there was I still had Crosshair.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. I haven't, I honestly, poor Republic. I haven't touched the Republic in a while. Basically, I've been on the Spectre and Mando train since those boxes have come out. So what are your thoughts? Where's
Is
Republic
this a
at?
bad time to tell you that I now have the Spectre cards? Uh,
I know I have them too. It's all right. It's
okay.
okay. I'm not jelly. I mean,
Um, they
some other
did
people
tell
might
me
be.
that don't try to buy those online. They are going to come as a store kit, not a GT kit. They will be a store release promo. And that was something that was relayed to me by AMG staff to specifically like, hey, can you get the word out? Like, don't go buy these for $100 on eBay or something. They're going to be a store kit.
Oh, that's good. All right, you heard it here first. There you go. Probably, I don't know. Maybe you've told somebody else somewhere else. I don't.
This is
Whatever.
the
I'm
first time I'm
declaring it
recording,
here for.
but I don't know when this episode will come out. So I'll probably say it in the Rogue Support episode as well. Because it was specifically said, like, hey, tell people don't go waste your money. Like, these are gonna be used to promote store events, which is great. Like, that's what we want from AMG, and that's such a um, cool little thing. And I did play
Oh
some
yeah.
Spectre. My Spectre was weird though, because I was playing Princess
Hmm.
Leia, Kanan, Ezra, Callus, and Rebel Commandos and Dark Troopers because Dark Troopers are busted. Which I know people were like, "What? Why the
Wait.
fuck are you playing Dark Troopers
Wait.
in there?"
Yeah. Wait. Okay. All right. So I saw that in the Discord, and I kind of brushed over it because I've been working. I've got an interview like for a promotion in a couple of days, so I'm a little distracted by that.
I'll
Wait.
promote
Yeah.
you.
What is this? What is this Dark Troopers thing? Come on. What?
What's your question? What?
No, what? Why Dark Troopers over? I don't know, any other thing, Chopper or Bar 2D2, or something that has some
Well, let's not go down the
synergy
Bar Two
with.
D2 route because my
Oh,
the last
too
episode on Rogue
soon.
Support sparked some controversy. Um,
Mm.
so most of the time, obviously, I was playing something like Chopper in that slot. And Chopper is often an activation that when you pull the card, you want to reserve him so that you can retain the abilities for him to not get shot. Then he ends up being kind of the last activation of your deck, but you're kind of trapped into what's potentially a very suboptimal play because often people can't go shoot at him. So they're not usually using him to trigger more movement, right? They can't go after him in the same way, which is really funny because I played against him um, in round 1, and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna go after him with Rex." from deployment, Rex moves 3 times and gets into melee with Chopper. You know what Chopper fucking did? He rolled 4 expertise for a reposition. I moved Rex all the way across the board to melee shove Chopper off the point, and he rolled 4 expertise on 5 dice so that he could move back on. And I had enough
Okay.
successes to pin him, but Chopper couldn't be pinned. It was like such a I actually had one of the few characters who could go after Chopper's point in the back. But my point is, like, most people can't do that. There's not very many characters who can move that far and get into melee. Rex is one of them, right? Like Rex can do that.
Right.
And I think I used at least 1 or 2 Ingress points along the way to kind of like give me a little bit of an extra bump, but there's no problem. I got there. Um, but he doesn't tend to have like he's not usually in a highly contested spot, unless you had to actually activate him early. And it can be really detrimental if you're playing him against Gideon, because then you really don't want to reserve him early on. And so I was just thinking about a lot of different things about what I wanted to play in that slot. And eventually I was just like, you know what? Leia can still help me move someone who's not a rebel back onto a point, because she's got an ability that does that.
Mhm.
And anytime in this game where you can have a support that just lives through a couple of attacks, that's just huge. That's a big deal. And honestly, I know people will probably give me shit because obviously I'm Dark Troopers are probably one of the most overstated characters in the game. But I don't think I win that event if Dark Troopers had been anything else, because in my round 3, I had one Dark Trooper standing on like we ended up with one of those points that's on a single ledge where like my one Dark Trooper in the middle who can't be force pushed is taking up the entire area of that elevation so nobody else can stand there. And then I had a different Dark Trooper on like the other side of the board who managed to engage someone and stop them from climbing onto a key point. And it was like, if that had been Chopper or Zeb or literally like anybody, it wouldn't have worked. So the fact I played Dark Troopers probably changed the event for me.
Interesting. And okay, just dear listeners, I kind of just let Omnus go with this because I was very interested in this topic because I love specters. But we weren't gonna do like a play by play of the tournament or the weekend because rogue
That would
supports.
bore Aubrey is really the reason why we're not doing it.
Well, I mean, yes, I'd be like, okay, that's cool. You won, and then you won, and then you won, and then you won. Okay, great. But I just wanted to do like some highlights of the weekend.
Yeah.
Like what were some high points? What were some cool things? And apparently, we're starting with Dark Troopers in Spectre.
Yeah.
So I mean, so we usually think of Spectres as and like a lot of rebel lists as being highly synergistic, and you went for clearly breaking that a bit for power because I mean, Dark Troopers are cracked. Oh my word. So I mean, how did you
So,
feel about like the rest of the list working with them, or did they just go stand on points and be like, I'm Dark Troopers, I don't care what you're doing?
well, so here's the thing. If you're playing basically anything but Dark Troopers, your support is probably dead. And so the fact that I can move them back onto a point doesn't matter. And so the synergy that I have within the list for moving someone, like let's just that's the reality. Your supports get wounded, right? Dark
Yeah.
Troopers have the opportunity to be a little less wounded, and Leia can still move one back onto a point. Um, but really, I was just trying to make a list where most of the time when people are attacking, they didn't feel like they could attack the right thing. And because I knew there was the potential, like Rebel Commandos are such a great unit. They're like one of the better units in the game. Rebel Commandos fucking hate shooting at Dark Troopers because they're immune to pin, right? Like it causes so many
Yeah.
problems and like really dulls down the Rebel Commando activation. So I'm like, I have Rebel Commandos and Dark Troopers, like two of the most effective. They're both range 5 units. They're very mobile. And they put a lot of just good pressure on the board in general. And so, sure, it doesn't have that much synergy. And like, oh, when you wound them, I don't get an attack from Kanan. But literally, unless I'm probably playing Chopper or Zeb, I'm not getting the attack from Kanan anyway. So even if I switch to something else, like Lando and R2, like I still don't get an attack from Kanan. And Leia gets an attack either way. You kill the Dark Troopers, I'm still going to shoot you. Her, like
Oh.
her ability, like her revenge attack doesn't trigger off of Rebels. And if you
That's
shove one of them off, I can pay a force with Leia to put it back on the point. And I'm playing a list where I do like to Shatterpoint Leia a lot.
right. Okay. So sidebar for a moment. I've been using the rest of my league games to try and unlock Hera because sci-fi guys, especially Sam over there,
Yeah,
keep singing her
Hera's
praises,
great.
and she is great. I mean, like fully, like I talked on our last episode about a really cool moment that I had in one of my league games with her. I solidly messed up two of her activations like in a row in my next league game. Like I feel like I should apologize to my opponent sometimes because like I fully messed up twice and still squeaked out a win. That's just how hard Hera is. But if I'm being honest, I really like the Leia Kanan pairing just a little bit more because now it's like double the trouble. Like it like you have to really be thoughtful about when you're gonna wound with that pairing. And now you're giving me this other idea. Man, am I gonna have to pick up a second Empire box for one unit? Because I already did this with Thrawn. Thrawn's still stuffed in a box in a corner somewhere. Poor Thrawn, he's
Oh, you said
wasted
you
on
don't
me.
have the Gideon box, so you can't play the. So I don't think you have to play them with Dark Troopers. It was important for
Mm.
me, but I mean, I see the advantage of playing Chopper or Zeb in that slot. But I really like Kane and Leia as a combination. They both bring so much mobility to the table, and me playing out of Washington State, like I feel like my area loves the heavy, like Thrawn, Grievous, like it's so much like mass relocation of models that I feel like if I can't compete with that in some way, and I love that Leia Kanan kind of as a combination means I have a lot of ability to move people back onto points and try to like mimic some of that same pressure. So I really liked the list. If I This is probably one of the first events that I've ever played in and done well. And then, whether it was MCP or War Machine, you always have that conversation like, oh, would you change anything about your list? And honestly, I wouldn't. If I had to play another tournament like this weekend before new stuff came out, and I wanted to do well, I would probably play the exact same thing unless I was like electing to play like Mando Ahsoka or something as my revenge combo. And I was doing that for variety's sake. But if I wanted to play Leia Kanan, I would play it with the exact same mix of characters.
That is awesome. Okay. All right. So again, just give us some high points from the weekend because my highest point from my league game is basically what I just told you, that despite me playing Hera horribly, like I literally went through the whole active one of my activations and I was like, well, I think I could do this or I think I could do that, or like I played it all out in my head. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with Hera, and then I did all of the things that I planned in my head and I got to the end and I was like, I didn't impact the board nearly enough with my primary activation. I'm like, pass, pass to you, and hope you don't take advantage of the fact that I did nothing just now.
If it makes you feel any better, that so what I was talking about was the third round against Ghost Bear, and he was playing actual Spectre, just no Zeb, I believe it had Rebel Commandos, but he was playing Hera Kanan. But the funny thing was, he had also brought Hunter Lumi, and so there was a lot of potential for a mirror essentially. And so what we ended up with, we did kind of have a Rebel mirror. And so that was kind of like the weirdest points of that. The Dark Troopers were a big swing, but like, man, is having Ezra Kanan as a combo, both fighting over the same point, is awkward as fucking
Ugh,
hell. Like,
ugh.
oh my god, is that such a weird like dynamic of like how do Ezra and Kanan deal with Ezra and Kanan? So weird. Um, but yeah.
That doesn't sound fun. So actually, all right, aside from the fact that all right, I'm sporting Jedi Knights, I've got Baby Yoda back there. I'm obviously playing the good guy here most days. Uh I just like that, like when I go into a field and like there's a ton of Empire players, I'm like, cool. I get to play the opposing team. When the game first started and like Mother Maul was a thing and like that was a lot of fun. Well, that was fun because there was a lot of players that were playing Republic still, or Separatists. And either way, like Mother Maul are like, kind of enemies of both of them, but like I just like story. So like that's what I'm happy about. So like I'm kind of glad that even though you were like sort of doing a mirror, it was still different enough. Like
So
this is
you
like
also
alternate reality.
Well, so you also got to keep in mind that I was very clearly playing evil Kanan because mine is painted like Balin's skull, and then my Ezra is painted in Boba
Yes.
Fett colors like a mercenary. Instead of the oranges and yellows, he's got the green, gray, and yellow, which is like it's very subtle on him. Like you don't look at him and think Boba Fett, but if you look at him long enough, you're like, there's a vibe here. Like though that's Fett colors, um, and they've got orange lightsabers. Um, so I was very
Wait. Are there pictures of this in the Discord? I gotta go
yeah.
find this. Oh, I gotta see. So, like, I'm terrible. I have like 30 plus notifications at any given time in like everyone else's Discord. Like, I at least pay attention to Momentous struggle. Like, please, if you want to get my attention the fastest, go there, dude. That's awesome. All right, for listeners only,
Yeah.
showing he's just showing me the models on the camera here, but oh, all right. So full disclosure, when I played my Mando Mall list, I at not at the last event, or maybe it was at the GT too. I probably played it at the GT, but I specifically put Ezra with Mando Mall because I wanted to do the whole alternate, like, hey, what happens if Ezra
Yeah.
joined Maul at the end of season 3 or whatever? And like, okay, all right. So I'm digging it. I like it. I like it.
Yeah. It was like I said, that was very good. So I guess we can back up to round one. So round one I got Christian, who's we've played against each other in MCP. Super awesome dude. It was great to see him. He had told me he was like, "Hey, seeing that you were on the list was part of the reason why I signed up to come." And I was like, well, obviously we did not want to play each other round one. Um, he had brought he had brought the Leia charming to the last box, and then Kanan, Callus, and Rebel Commandos, and
Yeah.
then I can't remember off the top of my head what his other list was, but I kind of looked down and I was like, I think I can play either of my things. Like I don't feel like I'm trapped into anything. And so I was like, well, I came to play Hunter and Lumi, so I'm going to play Hunter and Lumi. Um, but I would say, unfortunately, like the most important moment of this game was probably a mistake that I made. We're very early in the
Wait,
game.
what?
Yeah, so we ended up on the X shape for Never Tell Me the Odds, and
Oh. Yep.
and basically at the point where Crosshair kills 3 point secondary Luke, I was trying to position Crosshair out of range of Leia, and I totally forgot about a ladder on the other side of the board. But as soon as I got done moving, I was like, wait a second, I should have just moved Crosshair a little further forward and then put Leia or put Lumi behind him because Lumi was going to come up this ladder from the triggered move because Crosshair wounded someone, and then you wouldn't
Right.
be able to push Crosshair off the point anyway. But I didn't do either. And there was this ladder. So Leia comes up the ladder, shoots Crosshair off the point, and then it doesn't swing that point. And what that did is it slowed down the whole game because instead of
Yup.
me being up that point, it was this constant struggle. Because instead of it going, oh, 3 to my side, then back to 0, we gain a momentum, 3 back to my side. And like, as long as we were fighting over that, like, I'm going to win that one. And that's not going
Right.
to take me that long. But what happened was is because I fucked that up, now it was going 2 to 1, 1 to 2. It was going like, and it just took forever. And that game ended up going to dice down. We were in struggle 3, and basically like my arfs had just wounded something, and he was resolving his 2 different triggers because or no, sorry, he wasn't playing Kanan. He was playing Mando and Leia. So Mando and Leia were both resolving their
Oh.
movements, but
Okay.
it was
Okay.
still my turn, and I still had an action left. And then I won on dice down. I was like, I felt like I was in an advantage spot there, but if dice down had been called like 3 minutes later, it would have been his turn, and he would have won. Like that's how close that game ended up being. So
Right. And that's kind of something to just remember. Like I know we've been talking about that a lot, but I mean, when the game is that tight, it like I feel like you really shouldn't feel bad if it comes down to that and that's why you lose. Like cuz it could just swing the other way so easily. And also maybe you don't. Like in my latest lead game, we didn't use mission critical, but the opponent I was playing against, he was like, I want to set a timer for 2 hours and I want to use mission critical for the last 30 minutes. Like we're still gonna play past that if we get there. And like the way it ended up, he's like, I just want to see how it plays out. Well, the way it ended up is the round, quote unquote, ended with me winning, and then we went for like 2 or 3 more turns and then I actually won. Well, so then that didn't change anything, but maybe if it had gone like actually in a tournament and it had ended up on his side, well, maybe I could have lost. But that's a pretty close game. That's a
Yeah.
good game even if I had lost, right?
I will say I want to shout out Christian did a great job with Han and Chewie. He shatterpointed Han and Chewie twice. Like Han and Chewie was doing
Whoa.
work for him. Um like because I was never really in a great spot to wound them based on like when you're playing against a revengelist, right? You get to these points you're like, is this a good turn for me to wound something based on how many characters my opponent has like contesting points and things like that. And sometimes you go, no, it's definitely not, because if I wound them, then Mando moves back onto the point and I score, I don't increase my score. Right, like you thinking about that stuff, and so it
Right.
was just never a
Right.
great time to wound them, and they were just doing great work. Christian like got a ton of work out of them. I was very impressed. It was one of my first, I think it was my first game ever actually playing against them. So big shout out to him. He made that game close, and I felt like I was doing my best to put him in a disadvantaged spot, and he just kept finding good plays. So big shout to him, and I did want to emphasize how close that round one game is, because I feel like for the I don't want to say like younger gamers, but when I was in my early 30s and I was trying to like, oh man, this guy won an event, like he's the fucking best. Oh my god, right? You know,
Right.
you it's really hard in those moments where you're just like hearing that someone won and examining their list and knowing that like there's probably at least one round that they don't win that if it was not for some luck, right? And to emphasize that this is just how, like, if you're going to win an event, you probably have a game like this. There's no like, oh, I was just better every single round. That doesn't exist. That doesn't really happen. Um, yeah, I could have very easily lost round one. It would have been so easy. And so just emphasizing that for people who are trying to progress and trying to be competitive, and, you know, it, it's just as easy for any player, no matter how experienced you are, how many years of gaming. You can still make a mistake. You can still lose on time. And I don't think either he or I were playing slow. It was just a hard game, and it just took forever to get through struggle one because of it was the X shape, and so we had one point in the middle to fight over, and like Chopper can't threaten my back point, and I had so few characters that could threaten Chopper, right? Like we just didn't have very many options to kind of impact the other side of the table.
Yeah, I really do appreciate that sentiment because you can get really stuck in your head, especially when you're younger and you just think, oh no, they're just so amazing. It's like, yes, the shot heard around the world. My famous comments about Matt after Adepticon, where I was like, he's not better than you. He just had a better plan than you, and I still stand by that statement, no matter how inflammatory Todd made it seem, because like
No, I
you have.
listened. I heard you said Matt sucked. I got it.
Oh my god, it's fine, it's fine,
Matt, I
but
love you. See you know. You're my bro. We got to talk. Matt and I got to talk a lot about War Machine and stuff, and like because he
oh, there you
also
go.
played during a similar time period, and so
Mm-hmm.
we I feel like Matt and I bonded a lot. That Matt's
Yeah.
my bro now. I hope he realizes that he's one of my bromances.
Hey, I'm I'm assuming Matt is going to LVO. I haven't even paid attention. I
Yeah,
gotta pay
no,
more
he said he's going.
attention to who's going. Okay, good. So
Yeah.
because we're gonna have to get everybody all in the same room. Like I'm very excited about LVO just to see, because it's like we have these little pockets of light in the darkness, or maybe darkness in the light, depending on your view. And we got to bring them all. We got to bring them all together. Got to bring everybody in to one tent, and well, we'll figure out the philosophy later.
Um. So, look, I can cover game two real quick. I was playing against Mithrandir. who I know was both a listener of Rogue Support, um, and just a genuinely cool guy. Was happy to sit down and play with him. He's a very, very, very nice opponent. He played Plo Koon and um, Plo Koon and Vader 1 is what I believe it was.
Ah, all
Which is really
right.
cool. I had never actually played a game against Plo Koon going into this, so I was kind of excited about
Plo
that.
Koon.
Um, I dropped the Rebel combination against him, and this just ended up being a game where he just kind of got out positioned. It was just like the Kanan Leia movement and such was just a lot,
Yeah.
and it just I I just had more people on points. Like there probably was not like some special moment um that I could really call out in the game. It's just I think when you're examining the meta right now, and I know people have been really high on Vader Jedi Hunter in the past. Um I've expressed my views on him recently, and I'll try not to hot take too much on the Momentous Panda Train, um, or the Momentous Pandemonium. But
Ooh, okay, you got it. You can have
yeah,
that one. That's great.
okay. Um, but yeah, it was just like I was always moving a bunch of guys onto points. And so when you have a list that like wants to Shatterpoint Vader and just wounds one character, where like I'm Shatterpointing, moving one or two of your guys off points and moving like two of my guys onto points, it can really stack up against a list like that. And because my meta is so heavy in that, like I feel like I almost have to play that. Um, and so nothing I can't speak to like some really special moment in that one um that really shifted things. It was just kind of a it's kind of a solid game, and man, if you can't get that stuff wounded fast enough, Kanan, Leia, they just move so many characters. I love that combination. It's so much fun to play.
So I will give you your special moment because you got vengeance for me, which I know Jedi don't truck in that sort of thing, but I don't care. This is the new age Jedi, all right? During the dark days of the Empire, so we can do whatever we want. You know, if you play Jedi Survivor, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But with the first game that I played with both of the Spectre boxes, like full Spectre, I played against one of our local players, Sam. She was playing Plo Koon, and I want to say it was Obi-Wan, but this was a while back. I don't remember. But Plo Koon bullied my Kata to death. She forced pushed him with like a regular activation, then shatter pointed him, forced pushed him again. My Kaden ended up like literally in a corner of the map, and like it took so long to like jump him back into relevancy that I just and I messed up like my very first activation ever with Hera. I had no idea what I was doing. I messed that up too, and so like I was bullied by Plo Koon. So vengeance for Aubrey. There you go. There you go.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I do recall from that game. I think there was probably more things that just sort of hurt him in the sense of like where the ingress points were located, because like Plo Koon's activation, he couldn't get onto the elevation because there wasn't a
Oh.
convenient ladder. So he dashes someone, gets a dash himself, and then advances, but he's not close enough to a ladder, and he also wasn't close enough to like climb onto it. And so, like, having a primary activation that really doesn't swing any points is really rough. But that was just, I mean, I did win priority. Um, and, I got to choose side, you know. Um, but yeah, that sometimes like when you're playing characters like that and their positioning, sometimes where the ingress points are at and whether or not you can go up them just end up having a huge, huge impact. And I think that definitely hurt him. Um, but very cool guy. It was really fantastic to meet him, and we just had a really super super chill game, and it was cool to see. It's cool to see Plo do some stuff.
Hey, so I know this is a rogue support thing, and we didn't talk about cold drinks and hot takes, but I've got a hot take for you now that I'm
Okay.
almost to the bottom of my vodka soda drink. Because let's be real, this was a long Tuesday at the library. A lot of people were grouchy today, so that's where we're at. Uh, but my hot take is you don't have enough ladders on your table because Todd's not here to stop me. That's my hot take. whatever table you set up, add one more ladder, and you can blame it on me if it makes things weird. Just add one more ladder. I got you right here. There's
Nope.
your hot take.
My hot take, since Matt isn't here to complain about it, is marked mats are the only way to play. Like in round 2, that game that I just played, I chose his mission pack because he had shifting priorities, and we were playing on a mat that had shifting priorities marked, but none of the other ones. So I was like, we're playing shifting priorities.
Oh my god. I still haven't bought one, but that is on my short list of things to buy because I
We do an
tried
LVO. We're
so
gonna have
hard.
yeah, they'll be marked. Uh, yeah, they'll be marked mats.
Yeah, no, I'm actually at this point I'm like, maybe I'll just wait till LVO. It's fine.
Yeah,
But like yeah, cuz I'm sure I'd be able to pick something up there. But
absolutely.
like the marked mats, like I tried to put stickers on my mats to like make
I
it
did that
work
for a while. Yeah.
and then I rolled them up and pulled them out, and like the first time I pulled them out, all the stickers came off. I was like, "Oh, okay, all right,
Mine
this didn't
mostly
work."
stayed,
Uh...
but every once in a while I'd notice like a sticker would move, which I'm a little confused how one sticker moves
Wait,
in a
only
rolled up mat.
one?
Yeah,
Okay, that's ghosts. I don't know.
maybe specters.
Mm, mm,
Um, okay, well
got it,
we
got it.
talked about round 3. Ghost
Yeah.
Bear was a great opponent, super close game. That one I also could have very easily lost. Like there was a measurement that was like 1 millimeter, it may be half a millimeter,
Ooh.
like close that
Oh, I
stopped his
hate.
callus from climbing. Like it
Oh,
was one
I
that was
hate. I
so
mean, I hate
close
and love
that
that,
I
but
like I felt bad because I'm like check. He's like, oh, I'm gonna climb up here. I was like, wait, let's see if you're engaged. And it was like so close, and it was like as I'm trying to get it in, like well, like as I like trying to get it closer to like be even more precise, and then I'm like, well, as I get closer, it just starts moving models. So, um,
mm,
but it was like I didn't feel good about it because it was like so fucking close that
yeah.
I was still, that's definitely because I didn't do it intentionally. I was trying to get the Dark Trooper to the point. I was moving him as far as he could. He didn't get to the point, but the fact that he was able to like just barely end up engaging Callus at where he was just like a huge game swinging moment. But
Hey, it's okay. Over here in the casual realm, we call this accidentally tactical. It's okay. It's all right. These things
yeah.
happen. You're trying to do something else, and then it turns out, oh wait, I did this instead. All right, yay.
Um, the game against Sarah Cruel. So big shout out to him.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome dude. We ended up
Oh yeah,
playing
he's great.
Thrawn and Vader 2 versus Hunter and Lumi. So obviously, as everyone
Okay.
expects, Republic just gets crushed by Empire. So it wasn't much of a game. Um,
Hmm.
no, it was.
Hmm.
So part of the reason why my list is designed the way that it is because I can actually kill Dark Troopers in Mando, right? Like these things that rely on their expertise tree, I'm like, I will just expose you and kill you, right? Like,
All
and
right. Yeah.
right, and
Exposes a
so
drug.
yeah, and so playing the game, like when you're used to like Dark Troopers living through bullshit, there's a reason why I brought them in my other list, but I I believe my winning play of the game was literally killing the Dark Troopers. Um, but like
Oh.
cross like
Okay.
they had some damage on them. But it was going to be a crosshair activation that if crosshair can wound the Dark Troopers, um, I will win in that moment. But I was going to have to do it without focusing. So I was going to have to roll 7 dice, but I could expose them, and I would get the bonus die from Hunter or the bonus like success. But it's still
Right.
Dark
Right. Yeah.
Troopers, and I think I had 3 damage on them, or it was 2, and then I pinged them for 1 more. It was something like that. Um, but then like man, Crosshair was just a workhorse for me. Every time I put him on the table, Crosshair was an all-star.
Wow. I mean, I no, that actually does make sense to me because I have been looking at so on Zion's Finest, they brought on oh, I'm terrible with names. Dean? I think it's Dean, who was talking about his like beefy Ewoks. I don't know what he calls them. I don't remember, but it's Leia Logray
Beef
and
walks?
you yeah, right, sure. Sure,
Well,
but
I mean, if you
it's
cook them
it's
in a
it's like
wok, are they just
Ewoks.
beef teriyaki?
Yes, yes. Let's go with let's go with that.
Sounds
Hey,
great. I'm in.
if the Ewoks eat us, we can eat them. Is that how that works?
It's not
No.
cannibalism. They're a different species.
See, there you go, there you go. But anyway, it's Leia Logray and then like Chewie and Zeb and some other stuff, and it just it just sounded like fun. But what sold me on it is the fact that the expose from Leia, right? Because all of a sudden everybody starts punching just a little bit above their
Yeah.
weight, and because I'm always trying, like I would really love to just play all rebels, but it's just hard right now. I mean, once we get the new boxes, like then you're going to be able to do kind of whatever you want. I mean, rebels are scoundrels and scoundrels are rebels, right? That was
You should swing
right.
over to the Rogue Support Discord and see the Rebels list that I was just working on before the show.
Ooh, okay. I got homework. I got homework.
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
But that list again, a part of the appeal is like I don't know why I forgot Leia has a coordinated fire expose. Like that just fell out of my head because I was like, the Ewoks aren't as great as I thought
yeah.
they'd be. All right, fine. But yeah, no, like the ARF troopers with their expose. Like basically, anytime I see expose, I go, what can we do with this?
Yeah. I also probably a really interesting choice. So as I was winning struggle one, I used the opportunity to wound Thrawn again with Crosshair because Crosshair is my fucking god now.
Apparently, dang,
So
Crosshair doing work.
um Yeah, so but I was looking at it. He had only spent one force because I believe so. He's Shatterpoint Invader, and or Vader had activated. I forget exactly what it was, but like Vader had activated, so he'd gotten a force back, and like he was only spent one force so far. He had used a battle tactics, Vader, and I think in Shatterpoint, something like that. Um, and I was like, this is as reasonable a time as I'm probably going to get to wound. And the problem was that Thrawn was on a point blocking my only convenient ingress point to get onto it. And so with where he
Okay.
was at, it was like there was some big consequences because I had Lumi and Fifth Brother on that side of the board. And they're literally not going to be able to get onto that point because they can't shove Thrawn back with melee only, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Right? And with where Thrawn was standing, like if those two characters came up soon, I could have big problems. So I was kind of like, I need to take control of this point with with this crosshair activation. I might even have shatter pointed him. I don't remember. But so he elected to shuffle back in, and he was like, the one reason why you would kind of consider this as maybe a negative is that you're only shuffling good stuff back into my deck. You're shuffling Vader, Shatterpoint, Battle Tactics, right? So I'm not getting a lot of
Yeah.
force out of this. I'm getting one force, so I'm getting a fresh start. But like you're shuffling three of the best cards back in. I'm like, that makes sense. But play out to the end, we now are shuffling our decks at a different time. And so I had started my other shuffle during struggle 2, and then I reserved Hunter so I would have him for struggle 3, and I was able to go Hunter Crosshair in struggle
Ooh.
3,
Ooh, okay. All right.
right? And so that just set up such a big swing, and then he was trapped into a Thrawn activation. So I like get to activate two of my strongest characters back to back, and then he's stuck in a Thrawn activation where I'm controlling 4 points, or I'm controlling all 3 points.
Wow.
I think he was out of force as well. And so that's a
Yeah,
really interesting.
because the timing changed. Oh,
Right. And so like
interesting.
being at the beginning of a struggle 3 where I have all my force, have access to my best plays, and then you are trapped into a specific character. Because a lot of Thrawn's power, right, it comes from those battle tactics and stuff, and like
Hmm.
being able to make big swings. And in my last GT, I had suffered the opposite, where at the beginning of Struggle 3, my opponent went, Thrawn will reserve himself and advance onto a point. Battle tactics, Dark Troopers was his beginning of Struggle 3, right?
Yeah,
And so
that's tough.
there's this dynamic of where you're at in the deck ends up playing a really significant role. And so I think there was something about the timing of that. And I don't know in retrospect. It'd be a really interesting question for Sarah Cruel. Maybe should have Sarah Cruel on. That
Ooh.
would be sweet. You should
Mm,
chat with him too. Super
mm.
fantastic guy. But I'd be really curious to know, like, do you think in retrospect that that was the right play to like disrupt? Because when you still have 4 force, like, and you've gone through 3 cards, you're in a pretty decent spot to like play through the other 4 cards in your deck. So I don't know, but I'm not a Thrawn player. I've only played him a couple of times, so I don't know if there was something else that he felt he should do differently. But that was just a weird dynamic of the game. Is you're not used to playing something where I'm like, I'm activating my best characters and you're trapped into the last card of your deck.
Hey, how about this? I have never played Thrawn. So, dear listeners, why don't you jump into the Discord and tell us what you think? What has your experience been? And hey, you can even ask Sarah Cruel over there. You can jump into both Discords. There's a Momentous Struggle one. There's a Rogue Support one. Jump into both of them and tell us what you
Or
think
jump
because
into Sarah
I
Cruel's DMs.
yeah. Just DM
Yeah.
Sarah Cruel out of nowhere. Be like,
I mean,
random player number 17. What? This is what I think you should have done or shouldn't have done. Because
I mean,
I don't
I'm not
know.
judging his decision because I mean he's the highest ranked Thrawn player in the world, right? And like in the moment, you're like, oh, I get 1 force back, and I get to shuffle Vader Shatterpoint battle tactics into the deck,
Yeah,
right?
no, I would
That
have done
seems like a
like
no brainer.
right, with nothing in my head and zero games of Thrawn, I think that sounds good. Like, I mean, that seems like the correct decision. But it's like, well, this is where, okay, so again, dear listeners, go over to Rogue Support, listen to their. It's the latest episode where we're talking about mindset and everything, right? Like the very last.
Uh, yes.
Right, I
Well,
know
so
it's not
which
exactly mindset, but again, go give Rogue Support a listen because there's just so many variables in this game that
so the
lead you
last
to a
episode was
conclusion.
talking about like how do you examine your games and how do you
Yeah,
examine, right? If that's the episode you're talking about, that is the most
yes,
recent episode right now.
yes. Yeah, well, I mean, right now, as of
Yeah,
recording this episode, everyone.
yeah.
But the whole idea is like when we think about our plays and think about the variables, remember that just because maybe this was the best decision right now doesn't necessarily mean that it was the best decision for like the conclusion of the game. And conversely, if you made a mistake had you corrected that mistake, it doesn't necessarily mean that you would have won the game. That's the thought I'm thinking of from that episode, right? We following me down this rabbit
Yeah,
hole?
yeah, it sounds right. Like, and I
Yeah.
think it's something that Thrawn players have to think about is how that reshuffle times, you know, what they're going to do in the rest of the game, right? Like when you're playing Rebels, right? Like a lot of the time, Chopper is your last activation, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
very normal, and you've got to realize that if you're going into your last activation is forced to be Chopper, and it's like first or second activation of Struggle 3, that's bad. Like you do not want to be in that situation. Like
Yeah,
that can be really
range
rough.
3 is not a lot. Not a
Yeah.
lot if you need like Chopper wants to beat on people with his metal arms, but sometimes you got to make a ranged attack and range 3 is not very much.
Yeah. Um,
Whew, whew.
yeah. I mean, that's yeah, it's an interesting thing that like really only Thrawn thinks about. And I think that's part of what makes Thrawn really exciting is like how many questions does Thrawn pose that nothing else poses? And that just makes him really interesting to think about.
Right, that's something that I actually really like about where we are in the game. And we've been going for a while. Todd's not here to keep me to my 1 hour limit, but so like just kind of what I like about the game where we're at now is that there's so many units that force you to have this back and forth at times where you're not expecting and it's
Yeah.
changing the timing of the game as it were. And I know like sometimes the cognitive overload can get to me specifically, but I have reasons for that. But I actually think it's making the game better because now it's not just, all right, you're doing your turn, I'm doing your turn, you've got your turn. Maybe we got a couple of reactives in there, but now a lot of this game is really, I need to think about what's happening on my turn, what's happening on your turn, and I got to do that back and forth just a little bit more than, say, at the beginning of the game.
So I don't know if this thought helps you or not, but one of the things that I noticed, especially like, oh, I was playing a lot of Mando Ahsoka, right? And then I started playing around with Republic. And I was noticing that when I was playing these like Hunter Annie games, which was what I was testing before Hunter Lumi, was that I was just very worn out after every game. And then I was noticing that when I play a revenge list, so like Mando Ahsoka or Kanan and Leia, stuff like that, I feel much more refreshed because every time something bad happens to me, I got to do something. Maybe it's not always super effective, but I always got to do something. And so that helps me stay more refreshed and like kind of in the zone. And so I perceive for just me as a person, even though like I'm more drawn to the bad guys, I will probably always play a revenge as part of my premiere because I find that I stay more mentally engaged with the game and I have more fun. And I don't, and I think like playing a couple of revenge lists like in the middle helped me be in a good mental state. And like also, Sarah Cool was having car problems on Friday night, like all
Ooh.
sorts of stress. He had some like
Mm,
I think he had like a really stressful games. Like I think he was
mm,
beat like going into the finals. And so like that's
yeah.
probably an advantage. And he would say the same thing. Like he was
Yeah.
probably just exhausted. um, did that affect the game? I have no idea. Like, I don't know his list well enough. I've played Thrawn like once. I've played Vader 2 a handful of times. So like I definitely can't pilot his list as well as he can. And so I can't really judge him that much on his decisions. Like, was he exhausted and made a bad play? Not something that I saw, but maybe he saw it. Again, maybe that's a great reason to like chat with him and see what comes of that. But yeah, I felt surprisingly refreshed. Like the revenge list kind of like kept me in the zone, not let me get too negative. And that helped me like stay where I had the mental capacity to play this Hunter Lumi list that's really complicated and kind of easy to mess up if you get out of sorts.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you were expecting controversy from me, no, I guess we're just like, hey, this is right, because I definitely feel like I was beating my head against the Republic wall when the game first came out, and I'm trying it, and like it was not that Republic. I still stand by it. It's not that Republic was bad. It was that you had to earn every inch you took with
Okay, we're
Republic.
not going to be slandering Republic right now. I'm on a pro Republic, man. You should try my list. Hunter, Rex, Arfs,
Yeah.
Lumi, Crosshair, Fifth Brother. So it has one non Republic in there, but it's five Republic.
Okay. All right.
And it's
Fine.
got a lightsaber
Fine.
wielding Jedi in there too. This list is really solid. And I generally like the whole event. I thought I could drop it any single round. There was no round where I thought it would be bad to
Wow.
play.
Hey, and I'm not trying to bash Republic. I just mean that like it took just a little
I know
bit
you're
more
trying to be
effort
Todd, so you got
to
to bash
make.
the goodish guys, but
What? No, 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 no. I just mean it took more mental effort to get the optimal plays. Whereas as soon as I started playing Mother Mall, I was like, oh, I get forgiven when things go wrong.
yeah,
When things go sideways, I at least get like something good. It's not like the Night Sisters, the support Night Sisters. I can't even remember. Are they just
Night
called
Sister acolytes.
Oh, acolytes, right? It's not like they were much better than the clone troopers of various kinds. Like they got wounded all the time, but all of a sudden something good happened when my my units got wounded. So
But
that
that's
kind
so
of
I think so. I wouldn't just as so the
yeah.
thing there is I would say is I wouldn't associate that with Republic versus X. That's just how you feel when you're playing a revenge list,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so when
No,
I'm trying
you
to connect, yeah, I'm connecting with you or just be like, we're
yeah.
not bashing. You're just phrasing in a way that kind of sounds negative towards Republic. But what I'm trying to emphasize is what we're saying is like some people, and I think both you and I are in that camp, is that
Hmm.
we find it easier to stay engaged and like mentally avoiding tilt and things like that when we're playing something that has revenge elements, like Mother, like Princess Leia, like Kanan, like Mando, all of those things. And I think if you notice that about your play, then just work that in and it'll help you stay engaged during the game. I do think Republic can be less forgiving to making mistakes. But I do think that this Hunter Lumi combo holds up in the meta. And if you practice it, I think, and you want to play some Republic stuff. I mean, I painted all my stuff like black and red Purge Trooper stuff, which I fucking love, by
Uh-huh.
the way. Like, there's
Hey,
something
they
cool
are
about playing a list
cool.
that
They're
all
cool.
feels like it goes together. But yeah, I think it holds. And so if you love Republic, I do think that this is a Republic list that holds its own. Do I think it's the absolute like best list in the whole format? No, but I do think it pairs very well with something that's revenge. So if you like playing a revenge thing, I find that this kind of like provides me that other element that I need to balance out my premiere, and goes really well with something revenge.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and again, I'm not. I was mostly just comparing my experience because there are two local players that I can think of. Lamb Chop and Damon. I think Damon's actually his real name, but anyway, I'm thinking of their Discord names. But they have been playing Republic pretty much since the game came out, and they have not. They have not wavered. They have not deviated. They are
Aubrey, I
loyalists
get
to
it. You
the
think
end.
Republic sucks. We don't have to dwell on
Ah,
it. You've
fine,
talked to Todd for too
fine,
long. It's all Empire
fine.
and Sith and Separatists is the only way. I get it. You
I'm
That's the
I'm
vibe
just a
of
little
Momentous
rebellious.
Struggle.
Little rebellious. Yes,
Yeah.
famously, we are known for bashing players for enjoying what they enjoy.
Exactly.
Uh,
That is exactly what your podcast. But this is why
yeah,
I can stand
yes,
playing Kanan,
absolutely.
because when I rewatched season 4, like Kanan was very clearly like not as on board with the rebellion, right? Like, because he's like
Uh
talking with
huh.
Hera, being like, "Girl, are you sure this is what you want to do? Like, we don't know how crazy these people are. Like, maybe we should just worry about our family." And I'm like, Kanan, this is why you're the Jedi that I can connect with. Like, you're like a good person, but you're like, I'm I'm good in the way that like Neo is good in the Matrix. He's like, I want to protect Trinity. I'm like, I can respect Kanan. Like, the galaxy's too big for me to worry about all of these people. I'm gonna worry about my Spectre crew family. And I'm like, we're on the same level, Kanan.
Hey, that's fair. So for a while, I was fully on the Obi-Wan train, and then I had to do a rewatch of Rebels. Well, had to.
Had you
I,
were forced to by
I
Todd
was.
or your partner?
uh, yes, I don't actually remember which one it was. It was probably both of them. Anyway, as
Wait,
like I
is Todd
rewatched
cheating on me
Rebels.
with you? When I said Todd or your partner, you were like, yes. I
Only a
thought I
little.
was Todd's mistress.
I I think we might both be. Uh-oh.
Oh,
Are we having this chat?
are we
Are we
Eskimo
both the
brothers
other
with Todd?
woman? Oh my god. Oh man, LVO is gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a
And
blast. I'm so looking forward to it.
anyway, like so I did a rewatch of that and I'm playing through Jedi Survivor with Cal Kestis and he's very much like, you know what, the Jedi Order's dead. I'm doing what I want. Like that's kind of his attitude in this game. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of like the Ahsoka Kanan Cal Kestis train of like, yeah, we were trained as Jedi, but is this really the right thing? I feel like we're recovering cultists together. Oh,
I'm
uh
glad
oh,
that we're on the
uh
same
oh.
page, that you are a recovering cultist, that you're like, you got out of the cult and now you're like, oh my God, there's actual like freedom out here where we're allowed to have feelings and we don't steal babies. And isn't it great?
Right, and then you can still do all the good stuff that the Jedi were doing. Like you can still do those things. It's okay. You don't have to be Anakin who's like, well, not gonna be a Jedi. Guess it's time to kill some babies. Let's go. like
Yeah.
like there's a middle ground. Middle ground. uh, all right, we have been going for almost 90 minutes here. I think it might be time to call it. You got any more highlights for us?
No, I think we hit the good points again. I just want to shout out that SoCal was a fun event. It was fairly inexpensive. Was a good environment. Like it was a fun hang with everybody, and so it might be on my radar to do again, especially if there's a particular Aubrey and Todd who I fly out closer to them, and then they don't come and see me, and then I'm sad and I cry myself to sleep at night.
Hey, again, I just need it to be like not at the same time as Todd's anniversary and my oldest's birthday, and also like there's a bunch of other stuff that's
Yeah.
important stuff that happens at the same time. Like this is also like the annual conference of librarians, for those of you who are very excited to hear about this. This always happens in October every year, and I usually present because I'm that much of a nerd that I have to explain to the other nerds how to nerd more than they're already nerding. So
All right. Well, Aubrey, before we close out the episode, I have one question for you.
oh, okay, all right.
Okay. If you could pick one episode of any Star Wars show to turn into a Star Wars pop up book that would be delivered to you, which episode would you choose? Could be Mando, could be Ahsoka, could be Clone Wars, could be Rebels, any show. We're not doing movies for this. I want you to pick a single episode of a show. You don't have to remember the name, but if you can just be like, "Oh, it was that episode of Rebels where Kanan dies." That could be an example.
Too soon. No, I already have it because it would be
Okay.
a counting book. Because I mean, come on, I'm a librarian. I do story
Yeah,
time. I've
yeah.
already got it. It's a counting book, and it's the episode where Grogu eats a sentient woman's eggs, and we do a countdown of you start with 10 eggs in the little canister, and it counts down, and then before it hits one, Din shows up and is like, no, 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 no. And like it's him, just the eggs pop up out of the thing throughout, and he grabs
That
them,
is a
and there you go.
surprisingly dark episode where you're like, Grogu, who's like the cutest fucking thing in existence. You're like, could you please not annihilate this like genetic line, right? Like,
I
where,
just I still can't get over that episode to this day, because I'm like, do they understand the implications of him just popping them like they're chicken tendies in his mouth? I'm like, this is like the 2020s, right? Like we don't kill a woman's bloodline in Star Wars, but okay, here we are.
it's funny because like it's also kind of an exaggerated story of what it's like to be a dad, right? Where you're like, your kid just doesn't understand the level of bad of what they're doing, and you have no way of really communicating it to them. You just have to stop them, right? But they're like, it's usually something like, please don't steal that stuff from Albertsons. But like in Mando's case, it's like, can you please not kill her entire family, baby?
Right. It just forever, that episode just gets to me every time I think of the fever dream that was the Mandalorian, because I still can't believe we got this show, because they like like as we've seen with future works, Disney doesn't always stick the landing. Like it's still Star Wars. I still like it. It's got Berber lightsabers, but the fact that the Mandalorian nailed so many high points, and then there's that episode, and you're like, who greenlighted this?
Well, I think it's also funny because this whole joke stems back to your first pop up book, which was about the deadliest creatures. And that episode is also swarming with giant spiders. So I
Yep.
see why you chose
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
episode. But I can totally see the countdown. And it's like, and there are 7 babies left. And there are 6 babies left. I can
Yep.
just
There we
imagine
go.
you reading this. All right, Eric, how many of the baby frogs are left? There's 3 baby frogs left, Aubrey. That's right, Eric. Grogu's eating them all,
Yep. And then in the
popping
middle
them
of the
like
book,
gushy little Oreos. Nom 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 nom.
oh, there you go. There you go. All
Okay.
right. The what is it? The most
The
Star
most
Wars
Star
things
Wars
you
thing
can
you can
do
do.
is annihilate the Frog Lady's bloodline with your evil green baby.
Facts.
All right. Let's see. How am I supposed? Wait, that was rogue support. All right. Now, how
Yeah.
do I actually finish this? I'm supposed to say, oh, that's right. So, thank you everyone who supports us, listeners, Patreon supporters. I'll do a sci-fi. We love you. Have a hug out there, and also, as always, may the force be with you.
Later, nerds.